Chapter 6. The bored silence filled the dining room after the announcement. They know he's here. Marcus looked around the massive table while tension spread across every face in the room. Richard Hale slowly placed his fork down. His expression hardened instantly. "And how exactly," Richard asked coldly, "did they find that out?" The man in the black suit lowered his eyes. "We believe someone inside the company leaked it." Evelyn crossed her arms quietly. They were going to find out eventually. Richard looked directly at her. "That does not mean I wanted them calling my house during dinner." Marcus leaned back slowly in his chair, trying to understand what was happening. "All this because I walked into a mansion?" Nobody laughed. That told him everything. Richard looked back toward Marcus. "This family's name carries influence around the world. Every decision connected to Hale Global affects billions of dollars." Marcus frowned. "And they worried about me?" Evelyn answered calmly. "You are not just family now." Her eyes locked onto his. "You are a threat to certain people." Marcus blinked slowly. "A threat?" Richard nodded once. "You are my heir." The word still sounded unreal every time Marcus heard it. Heir. Yesterday he was broke and homeless. Now powerful people were nervous because he existed. Marcus shook his head slowly. "This don't even feel real." Richard motioned toward the servant standing nearby. "Clear the table." Within seconds, the servants quietly removed the dishes while tension still hung heavy in the room. Richard slowly stood from his chair. "Marcus, come with me." Marcus grabbed his crutch and carefully stood. His knee still throbbed with pain. Richard noticed immediately. "You're limping worse. I'm fine." "No," Richard said firmly. "You've been surviving pain, not healing it." Marcus stayed quiet. Nobody had really cared enough to notice before. Richard motioned toward Alfred. "Call Dr. Laurent first thing in the morning." Alfred nodded instantly. "Yes, sir." Marcus frowned. "Who's Dr. Laurent?" "The best orthopedic surgeon in Somerville," Richard answered calmly. Marcus looked down at his knee brace. "The hospital already told me surgery probably won't fix everything." Richard looked directly at him. "Average doctors tell average people impossible things every day." Something about the confidence in Richard's voice hit Marcus differently, like failure was not an option in his world. Richard led Marcus through a long hallway lined with expensive paintings and family photographs. Marcus slowed down near one picture. A younger Richard stood beside a tall man wearing a suit. Marcus froze. The man looked exactly like him. "My father?" Marcus asked quietly. Richard stopped walking. His expression softened immediately. "Yes." Marcus stared at the photo. Same eyes, same smile, same posture. It felt like looking into the future. "What was he like?" Richard smiled faintly. "Smart, loyal, hard-headed." Marcus smirked slightly. "Sounds familiar." Richard chuckled quietly for the first time. "He loved basketball too." Marcus looked back at the photo carefully. What happened to him, really? The question instantly changed the atmosphere. Richard's smile disappeared. Alfred lowered his eyes. Even Evelyn became quiet behind them. Marcus noticed immediately. "What?" Richard took a slow breath. "Your father's death was ruled an accident." "But?" Richard looked directly at him. "I never believed it." Marcus's chest tightened. "What are you saying?" Richard stepped closer to the picture. "The night your father died, he was preparing to take control of Hale Global." Marcus frowned. "So?" Richard's eyes darkened, and there were people who did not want that to happen. The hallway suddenly felt colder. Marcus stared at him. "You think somebody killed him?" Richard remained silent for a moment. Then finally, "I think powerful people do dangerous things when money and control are involved." Marcus looked back at the picture again, his father smiling beside Richard like everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. Nothing about this family was normal. Then another thought hit him. What about my mother? Richard's expression softened slightly again. "She was devastated after your father died." Marcus looked down. "She never talks about him." "Because some pain never leaves people," Richard answered quietly. Marcus stood there silently, trying to process everything. All his life he thought he came from nothing. Now suddenly his father might have been murdered over $1 billion empire. Richard placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I know this is overwhelming." Marcus looked at him honestly. "You think?" That finally made Richard laugh softly, a real laugh. Then Richard's expression turned serious again. "Listen carefully to me, Marcus." Marcus focused on him. From this moment forward, your life changes completely." Marcus frowned slightly. What that mean? "It means people will smile in your face while plotting against you." Marcus stayed quiet. Richard continued, "You cannot trust everybody in this world." For some reason, Marcus instantly thought about Olivia and Jordan. Betrayal was something he already understood. Then Alfred's phone suddenly buzzed. He checked the screen quickly. His face tightened. Richard noticed immediately. "What is it?" Alfred looked directly at Richard. "There's someone at the gate asking to see Marcus." Marcus frowned. Chapter 7. Olivia returns. The hallway fell silent the moment Alfred spoke her name. Olivia. Marcus froze instantly. Richard looked between Marcus and Alfred carefully. "At this hour?" Richard asked coldly. Alfred nodded once. "She insists she needs to speak with him." Marcus let out a bitter laugh under his breath. "Of course she do." Evelyn crossed her arms immediately. "How did she even find this place?" Alfred answered calmly. "Her mother is a housekeeper for one of the board members." Evelyn's expression tightened instantly. "So the conversation has leaked out already." Richard's face darkened immediately. Unbelievable. Alfred remained calm. "She refuses to leave without speaking to Marcus." Richard looked toward Marcus for a moment before speaking firmly. "Go talk to her so she can leave." Marcus rubbed his forehead slowly. Part of him wanted to ignore her completely, but another part needed answers. Marcus sighed heavily. "Fine." A few minutes later, Marcus slowly made his way toward the front entrance using his crutches. The giant mansion doors opened, and there she stood, Olivia Lawson, the same woman who promised she would never leave him, the same woman who left the second his life fell apart. Rainwater covered her black jacket while tears streaked her makeup slightly, but Marcus barely reacted, because for the first time since meeting her, he saw her differently now, not as somebody loyal, not as somebody real, just somebody who disappeared when life got hard. Olivia's eyes widened while looking around the mansion, the marble floors, the chandeliers, the luxury surrounding Marcus. Shock filled her face immediately. Then her eyes landed back on him. "Marcus," Marcus folded his arms slowly. "What you doing here?" Olivia stepped closer carefully. "I've been calling you." "I know. Why are you ignoring me?" Marcus stared at her blankly. "You really asking me that after what you did?" Olivia lowered her eyes instantly. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Ain't that what everybody say after betrayal?" Olivia stepped closer again. "Marcus, please listen to me." "No," Marcus interrupted coldly. "You listen." His voice became heavier. "When I lost basketball, another step. When I lost my car, another. When I got evicted." Marcus looked directly into her eyes. "You disappeared." Tears filled Olivia's eyes immediately. "I was scared." Marcus shook his head slowly. "Nah, you was selfish." The truth hit harder than yelling ever could. Olivia looked around the mansion again, then back at Marcus. "I didn't know all this existed." Marcus instantly noticed it, the change in her eyes, the regret. Not because she missed him, because she finally realized who he really was becoming. And Marcus noticed too. That hurt worse than anything. "You know what crazy," Marcus said quietly. "When I was sitting broke at that bus stop, you wasn't looking for me." Olivia started crying softly. "Marcus, please. But now suddenly you care?" Silence. That silence told the truth better than words ever could. Marcus looked away for a second, trying to calm himself. Part of him still loved her. That was the dangerous part. Olivia stepped closer carefully. "I made a mistake." Marcus laughed quietly. "Nah." He looked back at her. "You made a choice." The words crushed her instantly. "I love you," Olivia whispered. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, then finally shook his head. "No," he said softly. "You loved the version of me you thought was going to make it." Olivia covered her mouth, crying quietly. "That's not true." Marcus's voice hardened slightly. "Then where was you when I had nothing?" Olivia couldn't answer, because there was no answer. The silence became painful. Then Marcus spoke one final time. "I needed you at my lowest." His eyes darkened slightly. "And you chose somebody else." Olivia broke down, crying harder. Marcus felt pain in his chest seeing her hurt, but not enough to forget what she did, not enough to trust her again. Then Olivia looked up at him desperately. "So that's it?" Marcus stayed quiet for a long moment. Rain poured outside behind her while mansion lights reflected across the marble floor. "Finally, you was done with me first." Olivia's face crumbled emotionally. Marcus slowly turned away, because deep down, he knew something had changed inside him forever. Money could change how people treated you, but betrayal changed how you saw everybody else. Chapter 8. 10 billion reasons Marcus barely slept. The mansion was quiet, too quiet. He lay awake staring at the ceiling while everything replayed in his mind. The injury, the eviction, Jordan's betrayal, Olivia crying at the front door, and now a billionaire family claiming him as their own. None of it felt real. Around sunrise, Marcus slowly climbed out of bed and walked toward the giant windows overlooking the Hale estate. Morning fog rolled across the massive property. Luxury cars lined the driveway below. Security guards patrolled near the gates. Marcus shook his head quietly. "Yesterday I was homeless," he muttered. A knock came at the bedroom door. "Come in." Alfred entered carrying a silver tray with breakfast and coffee. Marcus frowned immediately. "You brought me breakfast." Alfred raised an eyebrow slightly. "You sound surprised. I ain't used to people serving me." Alfred calmly placed the tray near the fireplace. "That will take adjustment." Then Alfred looked toward Marcus's knee brace. "Dr. Laurent will be meeting with you shortly regarding your leg." Marcus looked down immediately. "The doctor already here?" "Yes," Alfred replied calmly. "Your grandfather does not believe in delays when it comes to family." Marcus stared at him quietly. Nobody had moved this fast to help him before. Then Alfred reached into his suit jacket and handed Marcus a sleek black card trimmed in gold. Marcus frowned. "What's this?" "A Hale family account card." Marcus turned it over slowly. The card felt heavier than normal, more expensive. Then he noticed the attached paperwork. His eyes widened instantly. $10 billion? Alfred nodded calmly. "That account has been prepared in your name." Marcus stared at the number in disbelief. "No, this got to be fake." "It is not." Marcus laughed nervously and stood up too quickly. Pain shot through his knee instantly. "Man, hold up." He sat back down while still staring at the card. "Yesterday I was trying to figure out how to eat." Alfred remained calm. "And today you no longer have to worry about surviving." Marcus shook his head slowly. "This don't even feel real." Then Alfred handed him another envelope. "What's this? An invitation?" Marcus opened it slowly. Inside was a gold-embossed card. "Hale Global Holdings Board of Directors meeting." Marcus frowned immediately. "What the hell is this?" "Your grandfather wants you present at today's meeting." Marcus blinked slowly. "Me?" Alfred nodded once. "He believes it is time the board officially meets you." Marcus leaned back against the chair. "Hold on. Yesterday I was broke. Today I'm walking into billionaire meetings." "Yes," Marcus laughed nervously. "This family moved fast." Alfred's expression became serious. "The people inside Hale Global are powerful, Marcus." Marcus looked back down at the invitation. "And they don't want me here." "That is correct." Marcus rubbed his forehead slowly. "Great." Alfred sat the coffee beside him. "Your grandfather believes it is important they see you immediately." Marcus looked toward Alfred carefully. "You think they're dangerous?" Alfred paused briefly, then answered honestly. "I think power makes people unpredictable." That answer told Marcus everything. 1 hour later, Marcus slowly walked downstairs wearing the black Gucci sweatsuit Alfred prepared for him. The expensive Richard Mille still felt heavy around his wrist. He still wasn't used to any of this. The second Marcus entered the kitchen area, Richard looked up from reading paperwork and smiled proudly. "There's my grandson." Marcus still wasn't fully used to hearing that either. Richard motioned toward the chair beside him. "Sit, eat." Marcus sat slowly while servants placed breakfast in front of him. Richard studied him carefully. "How's the leg?" Marcus shrugged slightly. "Still attached." Richard chuckled softly. "You remind me more and more of your father every hour." Marcus lowered his eyes quietly. That statement still hit differently every time. Richard's face became serious again. "Dr. Laurent will examine you this afternoon." Marcus nodded quietly, then looked carefully at Richard. "You really think my leg can heal?" Richard answered instantly. "Yes." The confidence in his voice felt genuine, not fake hope, real belief. Marcus looked down at the table quietly. He had forgotten what belief sounded like. Then Evelyn entered the room wearing another elegant outfit while scrolling through her phone. The second she saw Marcus, her expression tightened slightly. The board meeting is already chaos, she said coldly. Richard barely looked up. Good. Evelyn folded her arms. You enjoy making enemies? Richard calmly sipped his coffee. I enjoy reminding people who built this company. Marcus quietly watched the tension between them. This family had history. Complicated history. Evelyn finally looked directly at Marcus. Just understand something before today. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What? The people in that room are not your friends. Marcus smirked faintly. I learned that lesson already. For the first time. Even Evelyn almost smiled. Then suddenly Alfred entered the room quickly, his expression serious. Sir, Richard looked up immediately. What is it? Alfred hesitated briefly, then answered, Jordan Carter is at the gate. Marcus froze instantly. Richard frowned. Who? Marcus's jaw tightened slowly. My former best friend. Chapter 9. The boardroom. The black Mercedes Maybach S-Class glided through downtown Somerville while Marcus stared silently out the window. Tall buildings reflected across the glass, luxury stores, corporate towers, expensive restaurants. It felt like a completely different city from the one he struggled through just days earlier. Marcus adjusted the sleeve of his black Gucci sweatsuit awkwardly. Even the clothes still felt unfamiliar. Across from him sat Richard Hale reviewing documents calmly, while Alfred sat beside the driver. Marcus looked down again at the black card resting in his hand. $10 billion. Every time he looked at it, his brain still refused to accept it. Richard glanced toward him. You nervous? Marcus laughed quietly. I'm walking into a billionaire board meeting with people that already hate me. Richard smirked slightly. Good. Marcus frowned. Good? Richard folded the papers slowly. Fear keeps people careful. Confidence makes them dangerous. Marcus leaned back slightly. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what that means. Richard chuckled softly. You will. The Maybach finally slowed in front of a massive glass skyscraper. Hale Global Holdings. Marcus stared upward. The building looked endless. Employees in suits walked quickly through the entrance while security guarded every door. Marcus whispered under his breath. This your building? Richard looked out calmly. One of them. Marcus blinked immediately. One of them? Richard smiled faintly. You'll learn quickly this family owns many things. The car door opened instantly. The second Marcus stepped outside, cameras flashed unexpectedly. Marcus froze. Reporters, photographers, business media. Questions immediately started flying toward him. Mr. Hale! Is it true Richard Hale named you heir? Marcus! Are you joining Hale Global? What happened to your basketball career? Are the rumors about the Hale family true? Marcus looked overwhelmed instantly. Richard calmly stepped beside him. Keep walking. Security surrounded them immediately while Alfred guided Marcus through the entrance. Inside the lobby, everything looked massive. Marble floors, digital stock displays, luxury art hanging on the walls. Employees whispered the second Marcus walked past. He noticed it immediately. Everybody was staring at him. Some curious, some shocked, some angry. Marcus leaned slightly toward Richard. They looking at me like I robbed somebody. Richard answered calmly. In a way, some of them believe you did. Marcus frowned. What that mean? Richard stopped walking near the private elevators. Power. The elevator doors opened instantly. As they stepped inside, Marcus noticed Evelyn already waiting. She barely looked up from her tablet. The board is already arguing, she said coldly. Richard smirked slightly. Excellent. Marcus rubbed his forehead slowly. Why, everybody in this family enjoy drama. For the first time, even Evelyn smiled slightly. The elevator doors finally opened to the top floor. Marcus stepped out slowly and instantly felt the tension. A massive conference room sat ahead, surrounded by glass walls overlooking the entire city. But before they could reach the boardroom doors, another woman walked gracefully down the hallway toward them. She looked to be in her late 40s. Beautiful, elegant, powerful without even trying. Her long dark hair rested perfectly over a cream-colored designer suit, while diamond earrings sparkled beneath the lights. Unlike Evelyn, her energy felt warm. The second she saw Richard, she smiled softly. Dad! Richard's serious expression softened instantly. Stacy. Then her eyes moved toward Marcus. For a moment she froze completely, like she was looking at someone she never thought she would see again. Oh my God, she whispered softly. Marcus frowned slightly. What? Stacy slowly smiled. You really do look like your father. Marcus's chest tightened hearing that again. Richard stepped beside her calmly. "Marcus, this is my daughter, Stacey Hale." Stacey walked closer immediately and hugged Marcus carefully before he could even react. "It's so nice finally meeting you," she said warmly. Marcus stood awkwardly for a second before lightly hugging her back. "You too? I think." That made Stacey laugh softly. Unlike everybody else in this building, she didn't look at him with suspicion or judgment. She looked genuinely happy he existed. Stacey stepped back, smiling. "You already causing chaos around here?" Marcus smirked faintly. "Apparently that run in the family." Even Richard laughed quietly at that one. Then Stacey lowered her voice slightly. "Just ignore most people in there." She glanced toward the boardroom. "They fear change." Marcus looked toward the giant glass doors ahead. "And I'm the change?" Stacey nodded slowly. "Very much." Then her expression softened again. "But don't let them intimidate you. Most of those people inherited power." Her eyes locked onto his. "You survived pain. That's different." For the first time since arriving at Hale Global, Marcus felt slightly calmer. Then the boardroom doors slowly opened, and every conversation inside instantly stopped. Men and women in expensive suits stared directly at Marcus, some curious, some impressed, some clearly annoyed. Richard walked confidently into the room. "This meeting will now begin." Marcus slowly sat beside Richard while whispers spread around the table. One older board member frowned immediately. "So this is the heir." Another woman looked Marcus over carefully before smiling slightly. "He looks more like Daniel every second." Marcus noticed something quickly. Half the room seemed interested in him. The other half looked like they wanted him gone immediately. One younger board member leaned forward. "With respect, Marcus has no business experience." Another quickly disagreed. "He built himself into a national athlete from nothing. That takes discipline." "Basketball and billion-dollar corporations are different worlds," another man snapped. Marcus sat quietly listening while they argued about him like he wasn't even there. Finally, Richard slammed his hand lightly against the table. "Enough." Silence instantly filled the room. Richard looked directly at Marcus. "If you are going to lead this empire one day, you must prove yourself." Marcus nodded slowly. "How?" One board member slid a folder across the table. Inside were papers for a struggling small company called Crown Elite Fashion. The numbers looked terrible and ambitious. Debt. Low sales. Near bankruptcy. The older board member smirked slightly. "Buy the company." Marcus frowned. "What?" The man leaned back in his chair. "Turn it into $1 million business within 2 months." Several people around the room looked shocked. Even Stacey frowned. "That's impossible," one woman whispered. Another board member smiled slightly. "Exactly." Marcus looked around the room carefully. This wasn't just a challenge, it was a setup. They expected him to fail. Richard remained calm while watching Marcus closely. Marcus slowly closed the folder, then leaned back in his chair. "What happens if I succeed?" The room became quiet. Finally, Richard answered proudly. "Then nobody in this room will ever question your place here again." Marcus looked down at the company papers one more time, then nodded slowly. "All right." Several board members looked surprised immediately. "You accepting it?" someone asked. Marcus smirked faintly. "Everybody already think I'm a failure anyway." His eyes hardened slightly. Might as well prove them wrong. For the first time, a few board members actually smiled. Later that afternoon, Marcus walked out of the boardroom beside Richard, Stacey, and Alfred. His mind still raced from everything that happened. A company, millions of dollars, 2 months. The pressure already felt insane. Then suddenly, a woman walked toward them from down the hallway. Marcus noticed her immediately. Beautiful, young, probably in her late 20s, long dark hair, sharp brown eyes, elegant black business dress, confident walk. She carried a tablet against her chest while stopping directly in front of Richard. "Sir!" Richard smiled slightly. "Perfect timing." Then he looked toward Marcus. "Marcus, this is Vanessa Brooks." The woman smiled politely. "It's nice meeting you." Marcus nodded slowly. "You too." Richard placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Vanessa will be your personal assistant." Marcus blinked. "My what?" Richard smiled calmly. "She will help you with everything." Vanessa extended her hand professionally. "Trust me," she said softly. "You're going to need the help." Marcus looked between all of them, realizing something important. This new life had officially begun. Chapter 10. Vanessa Brooks. Marcus stared at the beautiful woman standing in front of him. Vanessa Brooks. Everything about her screamed confidence. From the fitted black designer dress to the calm way she carried herself, she looked like somebody completely comfortable inside the billionaire world Marcus had just entered. Vanessa extended her hand politely. "Nice to officially meet you, Marcus." Marcus shook her hand slowly. The first thing he noticed, her grip was firm, professional, not fake. "You too," he replied. Vanessa smiled slightly. "You survived your first board meeting. That alone deserves congratulations." Marcus laughed quietly. Felt more like surviving an attack. That's basically the same thing around here. Even Richard smiled at that. Stacy stepped beside Marcus. "Vanessa is one of the best young business minds at Hale Global." Vanessa lowered her eyes slightly. "You make me sound more impressive than I am." Richard disagreed immediately. "No, I make you sound accurate." Marcus looked between them. "So what exactly a personal assistant do?" Vanessa smirked slightly. "In your case..." She glanced at the folder in his hand. "Probably save your life." That made Marcus laugh for real. For the first time since entering Hale Global, he relaxed slightly. Richard checked his watch calmly. "I have another meeting." Then his eyes moved toward Marcus seriously. "Your challenge begins immediately." Marcus looked down at the folder again. Crown Elite Fashion, a dying company, millions in debt, 2 months to save it. Richard stepped closer. "The board expects you to fail." Marcus nodded once. "I figured that out." Richard's expression hardened slightly. "Prove them wrong." Then he walked away with Alfred beside him while security followed behind them. Stacy smiled softly before leaving too. "Try not to destroy the company on day one." Marcus smirked faintly. "No promises." Once they disappeared down the hallway, Marcus looked back toward Vanessa Brooks. "So?" He lifted the folder slightly. "How bad is it?" Vanessa sighed dramatically. "You want the honest answer?" "Always. We might be doomed." Marcus laughed quietly. "At least you honest." Vanessa motioned toward the elevators. "Come on, I'll show you your office." Marcus blinked. "I got an office too?" Vanessa looked at him like he asked something crazy. "You're Richard Hale's heir." Marcus shook his head slowly while walking beside her. "I swear this still feels fake." As they entered the private elevator, Vanessa pressed the top floor button. Marcus noticed employees immediately staring once the doors closed. "You always got people staring at you around here?" he asked. Vanessa crossed her arms lightly. "Only when billionaires suddenly appear out of nowhere." Marcus laughed quietly. "Fair enough." The elevator opened moments later to another luxury floor. Vanessa led Marcus through a long hallway lined with glass offices and modern artwork. Everything looked expensive, clean, perfect. Finally, she stopped outside large double doors. Marcus looked at the gold nameplate as Hale Executive Director. Marcus stared at it silently, then looked back at Vanessa. "You serious?" Vanessa opened the doors slowly. "You better get used to seeing your name on important things." Marcus walked inside slowly and froze. The office looked unreal. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. Black marble desk, luxury couches, massive flat-screen TVs, a private bar area. Even the office smelled expensive. Marcus shook his head slowly. "This office bigger than my apartment was." Vanessa placed her tablet down on the desk. "That sentence is going to become a pattern in your life." Marcus slowly walked toward the windows, overlooking downtown Somerville. Cars moved like tiny dots below. People looked so small from this high up. For the first time, Marcus truly felt the level of power surrounding the Hale family. Then Vanessa's expression became serious. "All right," she said professionally. "Let's talk about Crown Elite Fashion." Marcus turned around. Vanessa opened the folder and spread documents across the desk. "Sales are collapsing." Another file. "Investors are pulling out." Another. "The former CEO stole money before resigning." Marcus frowned immediately. "Damn," Vanessa nodded. "And the company has about 60 days before complete bankruptcy." Marcus leaned against the desk quietly. "So basically they gave me a dead company." Vanessa looked directly at him. "They gave you an impossible situation." Marcus smirked slightly. "Good thing my whole life been impossible lately." That response caught Vanessa off guard slightly. Then she smiled. For real this time. "You know," she said softly, "most rich people panic under pressure." Marcus folded his arms calmly. "I wasn't rich when pressure found me." For a second, Vanessa just looked at him differently. like she was finally starting to understand who he really was. Then suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed. Alaya. Vanessa glanced toward the screen. You should answer that. Marcus looked slightly surprised. You sure? Vanessa nodded. The people who cared about you before the money usually matter the most after it. Marcus stared at her for a second, then answered the phone. Yo, Alia's soft voice instantly hit different. Hey, how you doing? Marcus looked around the giant office quietly. Honestly, he didn't even know how to answer that question anymore. I'm all right, he said softly. You sure? Marcus smirked slightly. There you go again. I'm serious, Marcus. Her voice carried real concern. Not curiosity, not fake sympathy, concern. How your leg feeling? She asked. Marcus looked down briefly at the brace around his knee, still hurting a little. You icing it? Sometimes. Marcus? I said sometimes. That made her laugh softly. For a moment, everything felt normal again. No billion-dollar companies, no board meetings, no luxury offices, just him and the one person who never stopped checking on him. Alia's voice softened again. You eat today? Marcus shook his head, smiling slightly. You sound like my mama. Somebody got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Marcus leaned back against the desk quietly. Yeah, there was a small pause. Then Alia asked carefully, So where you staying now? Marcus glanced around the massive office and expensive surroundings, then toward Vanessa, pretending not to listen while organizing paperwork nearby. You really wouldn't believe me if I told you. Alia laughed softly. That's serious? Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah. Well, as long as you safe. That word hit him differently. Safe. For the first time in weeks, maybe he finally was. Then Alia suddenly got quiet, like she was nervous about something. Marcus noticed immediately. What? Nothing. Liar. She sighed softly through the phone. I was just thinking. Marcus waited quietly. Maybe when things calm down a little. Another pause. You want to go out sometime? Marcus blinked slightly. A date? Alia laughed nervously. I mean, yeah. Marcus leaned back slowly against the desk. For a second. He didn't know what to say. Not because he didn't want to, but because part of him realized he had wanted this for longer than he admitted. Alia quickly started talking again. You ain't got to answer now. I just... Nah, Marcus interrupted softly. Silence filled the line. Then Marcus smiled slightly. I'd like that. Alia got quiet instantly. Then he heard her smiling through the phone. Really? Yeah. Her soft laugh hit him differently. Warm, real, comfortable. Then she teased quietly. Don't stand me up either. Marcus laughed for real this time. Wouldn't dream of it. Across the office, Vanessa glanced up briefly before hiding a small smile. Because even she could tell, that phone call mattered more than any board meeting ever would.